Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the Blood Feud podcast. This is Neil.
This is Sam.
We've got a doozy. I feel like I said that a couple episodes ago, but this is another doozy.
Indeed.
Of a film. This is a film that absolutely clobbered me.
Did you say goodbye to your brother Johnny? It's time to end this.
No, Vic. It's clobbering time.
I got a text from you after you watched it, and it said, let me pull it up because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong.
I don't remember what I said.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You said, rethinking my life after watching that one. Oh, my goodness. And I thought you were being a little bit dramatic.
So did you not finish it until?
Because I started watching it real late at night, and I fell asleep, and I felt myself getting sleepy, and I didn't want to do a disservice to the film by not watching it fully aware of what was going on. So
Okay, I thought you had finished it. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
Okay.
But anyway, so without further ado, get it because it's a French movie. The film we're talking about this week is Martyrs.
Which was actually, we got to give a shout out. This was our first recommended film.
From a guy on our Facebook, so please like us on Facebook. Send us recommendations. We will try to get to them. Shout outs to Josh Van Valkenburg. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, thanks so much for recommending this film. Absolutely terrific recommendation.
So yeah, this is a 2008 French film, directed by a guy named Pascal Laugier.
Because that was probably right.
The only other film on his that I recognized was a film called The Tall Man, which I never watched it, but I recognized it because it was a movie that was on Netflix. Jessica Biel was in it. It's supposed to be decent, as far as what I heard, but. So we're talking about Martyrs.
And I guess I feel like I say this all the time, like every episode, but again, for this film especially, don't watch any trailers. We just watched the trailer for the first time about 5 minutes ago, and it was awful. It just gives away way too much in the movie.
Let me rant for a second.
Yeah.
Don't ever watch any trailers.
Agreed.
You can watch maybe a teaser. If it's a film you know absolutely nothing about and you want to, maybe I want to watch this, watch a teaser, watch maybe 20 seconds of a trailer, and then as soon as you're like, okay, that looks good, turn it off. Because I hate spoiling stuff for myself.
Yeah.
So
and there's some people that I know, I'm totally like that too, but some people are like, I read the last page of the book before I...
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
I don't know. If you're like that, that's fine.
No, it's not fine. Just kidding. That's all right.
But yeah, if you're one of those people that is highly offended when things are spoiled, especially for this movie, I would say for most movies too. But yeah, the less you know, the better. And for this one,
because I will say, I saw the poster. I went on IMDb and looked up, like a brief synopsis of the film.
Yeah.
And the poster gave me this kind of expectation for what the film was going to be. In this film, like I said, it just completely clobbers you. It just shattered every single expectation I had.
Right, because I've seen this film on top 10 lists of most violent horror movies, along with films like I believe it's August Underground and just films like that.
A Serbian film.
And I thought there were this film. I think those lists that I've read, I'm glad they didn't spoil it because it's this is a film about two girls who go to get revenge. I was imagining I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just a straight up revenge. I don't know if you've ever seen I Saw the Devil.
No, but I got it. It's on my list of movies to watch.
But I was kind of expecting something like that. And before we talk, I don't want to spoil it, so I don't want to say too much more. But
what should we say? Let's give a brief, as usual, we'll give a brief spoiler-free.
I liked this movie a lot.
Me as well.
I did watch the dubbed version, which is unfortunate because I'm usually someone that prefers the subtitles so you can see the original performance. But I don't think that the dubbed version, if that's all you can get your hands on, I don't think that does any disservice to the original film. I mean, obviously, I guess I haven't seen the original French, but I thought it was good regardless. It is violent, torture porn, if you will, but I think it goes beyond that, where something like Hostel or a Serbian film really doesn't go beyond that.
And I couldn't help but find myself thinking about that all through the film. There's something very authentic about this film, and whereas I was comparing it in my head to, we keep going back to Eli Roth, I'm not going to talk about him too much, but a film like Hostel just doesn't ever achieve that level of authenticity and just total drama that I think this film masters.
Right,
utterly.
and I would say that this film has a little bit of a, I don't know if this is like the right word for it, but like a sci-fi type feel to it, like almost like like a Richard Matheson novel.
Yes, I want to talk more about that. But yes,
so yeah.
Again, I think you already touched on this, but it's not a movie for the weak-stomached. If you don't like gory, kind of torture-esque movies, or if that stuff kind of really freaks you out, this film has a lot of that, but it also has genuine scares too. And I think there's a great balance, and it's never overbearing, but it's violent.
Right. And like something like a Serbian film, we always talk about like, who is this movie for?
Yeah.
That movie, like, I could only recommend to someone that wants to see a torture porn movie.
Right.
This movie, I could wholeheartedly recommend to someone that wants to see a good horror film, as long as they're okay with, the extreme,
pretty extreme violence. And that's the other thing too, is that I wouldn't recommend a Serbian film. It's just like, if you're looking, but this film I would highly recommend this film.
Yes.
If, like I said, if you can get past the violence, if you obviously it's pretty intense, but I don't ever think it really gets like, I don't know. There's probably some films that lead you to question ethical,
right?
But this film does not do that.
There's that scene in A Human Centipede 2 that I don't like. It's not gross. None of it's gross. The stuff that happens in Martyrs. It's just, it's graphic. But it's not like.
No, it's gross maybe, but not like nothing's gonna challenge. I don't know. It's not really that like. It's not gonna really push like the ethical boundaries like a movie like the Serbian film does. I think there are a few times that feature like pretty graphic abuse, violence that could make some people uncomfortable in this film. But other than that, I don't know. That's really the only disclaimer, and I don't really know what else. Do you want to say anything else about this film other than?
I think it's another movie that really warrants itself to discussion.
Yep.
Based on, I don't know. I won't say too much.
Yep. I think it's a phenomenal film. I think there are a couple parts that kind of undermine the pace that otherwise I think is phenomenal as well. I think this movie has a phenomenal pace, relentless, I would say. I think there's a couple times when it kind of lets up, but other than that, and it kind of gets a little bit droll, which I'll talk about. But other than that, really, I don't know. I think we just got to get into the discussion.
Yeah, so go watch Martyrs. Come back, unless you just want to hear our spoiler conversation, because I think that's what we're about to jump into. Where do you want to start with this? I think one of the most, like I said, how it smashes your expectations. There are so many layers to this movie.
Yeah.
Where, like, I thought, like, okay, so at the start, I was thinking, this is a revenge film. It's going to be, because it starts off with this young girl, preteen, teenager, chained up, and, like, she's getting abused, and you can see she's all battered, and she breaks free. And it's, then you see her at the orphanage, and then, fast forwards to her growing up. And I thought this was just going to be a revenge film of her and this girl she befriends at the orphanage. Their names are Anna and Lucy.
Right, and Lucy is the girl at the beginning. She breaks out of her torture state from her victims. And Anna befriends her at this orphanage.
Yep.
And they become inseparable, basically.
Right.
Sorry,
so
continue.
I was expecting it to just be a straight revenge where she's going from she somehow finds out who kidnapped her, and she's going from person to person to person and just smoking them.
Yeah.
And it starts off that way.
As that was my expectation as well.
But it just takes so many twists and turns, like over and over and over. And I was like, where is this going? In a good way,
that's
though.
And that's one of the best things about the film is that at least until I would say, like an hour and 20 minutes in, it always has that. Well, where is? I literally can't make any connection to what's going to happen next. And I think at the end that comes back too. But that's a great feeling because that means that the film is really doing a good job of like undermining you as a viewer. And it would build me up too. Like I would think, okay, there's a safety net here. And
right,
then,
like this is the type of movie that it's going to be. But
so let's talk about, we can kind of go from start to finish here. One of the first scenes after we see these two girls befriending each other, and then we actually find out there's something kind of extra normal going on.
Supernatural,
Lucy is in her bed at the orphanage, and there's like a monster in the room, a creature, and we don't really know what it is. I loved the creatures in this movie. We'll kind of get to it. Then you get credits, opening credits. There's kind of a Polaroid of like Lucy being found, and this might have actually been, I'm sorry, this was before this. This was after you just see Lucy escaping. This was before the orphanage. The credits really didn't lead. I didn't know what to expect because it kind of lulled me. I was kind of like, I don't know. There was like a Polaroid film and like investigators saying, we found her here and we did this.
Oh, yeah, he's like a researcher and they're making a film about it. Oh, that was a neat little effect that it like pulled away from like a projector screen and like
right yeah, and at the end of the credits we see, I believe it's Anna watching or Lucy watching the video of them finding her, and you know they're like, do you know what this is? And
right,
that wasn't really that important to the film. Anyway, directly after I believe, you know, in this bedroom scene where we find out there's a creature, we go to a family. And I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. I was like, is this the family like years from now, grown up? Is this Lucy having been adopted? It's not.
Right, I was trying to figure out what, you know, was going on with these people.
So you see a family of four. There's a boy, a girl, teenage. They're talking about high school stuff. And like, I love how this film this scene gets you invested in these characters, this family that we haven't seen yet. And the mom, the one weird like foreshadowing here is that the kids and the dad, the sister, brother, and the father are at the table eating, and the mother is fixing this weird industrial pipe thing, which you're like, that's kind of weird that they have that in their yard. I didn't really think about that.
I really didn't give it a second thought.
She finds a mouse, and I don't know if she kills it. It was like clogging a pipe, and it's like dead, and she brings it in and kind of teases the family with it.
Oh yeah, she throws it on the table.
If you're really being attentive, and that it made me think a little, but not really. You're like, that's kind of a weird, kind of sadistic thing to do. She like puts it on their table, and they're like grossed out, and she's like dangling it, and she's laughing, and that just becomes like foreshadowing for what kind of family they are. Especially because the mouse is like a lab rat,
right?
You know,
a
lab mouse. Yeah. In spite of my rage.
Oh, shout out Smashing Pumpkins!
It's like we're completing each other's. Anyway.
Podcasts.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going. Yeah, so, and literally in the next instance, somebody answers the door, and this family is blown away.
And
like,
this is where I was like, okay, this is the type of movie that this is going to be. Because it's just like, she's just blasting. Like, he opens the door and gets blasted by a double-barrel shotgun.
The dad, yep.
And this lady just, like, runs in, and she starts, like, she shoots the wife. The mom comes running up to see what happened.
Shoots the dad, shoots the wife.
Right.
She shoots the kid. She shoots, and then the daughter goes to hide, and you know it's like a really classical like victim is hiding from the assailant, except we're kind of seeing it from the assailant's perspective. It is Lucy, of course, with the shotgun, and she's firing this shotgun through the bed, kind of freaking this girl out. And
I was kind of expecting her to not kill the kids because like you could tell that, you know, okay, this is Lucy getting her revenge on the people. that hunted her down or trapped her, or tortured her.
Yeah.
But why would she kill the kids? But you know.
And she kills those kids because the other girl gets out from under the bed and she guns her down. So the blood, it looks really, the blood effects are good.
Yeah, the special effects and the makeup in general in this movie is really good.
Yeah, because there's really not much. It's kind of all, what would you call it, conventional? It's pretty much conventional effects.
I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of CGI, at least that I could tell.
No, there's some contortionism that we'll talk about, but so that, and again, when you're talking about codes in films, and like it just goes to show that right from the start, nobody's safe, and also that nothing's going to happen in the way you expect it.
Right. And then another thing that kind of made me think that it was going to be like a revenge film is that isn't Anna sitting out in like the car eating a sandwich?
Yeah. So
like,
Lucy like calls Anna, and it's Anna throws the sandwich out the window, and goes to this payphone where Lucy's calling, and then Lucy tells her it's done, and then so Lucy. But
doesn't she say something about like she's here?
Well, is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been before that though, because Anna's gonna start heading over to the house. Now we see there's like this scream in the background, like this really creepy,
yeah,
which is great. It's really unnerving. And in this scene, Lucy will proceed to be hunted by a creature that we don't really know what it is yet. And like, I do want to say that part of what I wished that the film wouldn't have really ever made it clear what these creatures were, because there's a point where we know what they are.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Like, I know there's a point where something reaches its climax and you have to move on, but like I would have liked a more surreal, because it starts out really surreal. Right.
And this is where in my mind I was like, well, this is either going to be real and it's paranormal,
Yeah.
or it's going to be like in her head. Like the haunting of her past type thing.
As it turns out, it is the latter. And that's fine. It's a really cool... It doesn't really make itself apparent until probably like 40 minutes into the film. But I'm always a fan of ambiguity, for the most part. And I like when things are surreal and we never really quite figure out maybe what was happening. It could have been real or it could have been fake.
Yeah. Because this thing like cuts her on the back and like... just cuts her all over the place.
And it's freaky. And we don't really... The film does a great job of not revealing too much of it until it's time to move on.
Yeah. Because you don't really know what it is. Like, you can tell it's a humanoid figure, but the way it looks, like the way it's presented, it's like you said, it's subtle.
It's a grotesque... We see grotesque limbs, arms, a naked woman figure, but like...
bloodied
like
and
corpse-like.
cut. Yeah.
Like, totally grotesque. And we'll see kind of really quick glances of its face, and eventually it'll show the whole thing. And this thing just starts hunting her through the house, and like, stabbing her back with blades, like razor blades. And
there's that real cool scene where she like locks herself in the bathroom.
And this thing,
and it comes out from underneath the bathtub,
and
it's like
freakish.
Just the way it's like contorting its body around, and you can tell that like this is something they've been dealing with, because Lucy
is like, she's here,
right? And Anna, like after the attacks happen, Anna is like just stitching her up. Like,
Anna's a medic or something, a nurse, a trained nurse, and she's always stitching. I mean, these wounds are bad, and I just want to note how effective this film is at this point, because it's so cool how Lucy is murdering this family, potentially murdered other families, because this creature is hunting her, forcing her to murder.
Because she says after she kills it, after she kills the family, she says to the creature,
I did it.
They can't hurt you anymore, or something like that.
I did it. I killed them. I even killed their kids. And the first scene where we actually see, besides that orphanage bedroom scene, the first scene where we see something is when Lucy, I'm going to keep doing that, has kind of killed the family. Anna's on her way, and Lucy leans into the kitchen because she hears something, and there's this really sharp orchestral, like, and then you see the back of this creature, and it's like, you didn't expect it at all.
No.
And it's like, what is this naked, twisted creature doing and then it's gone.
Right.
And that, to me, is so effective. And the scenes, there's a couple other scenes. we're gonna, once Anna and Lucy are in the house, they're kind of living in the house for a second, trying to dispose of the bodies.
Right, and I thought the disposal of the bodies part kind of dragged on a little bit, because like it was really irrelevant. Like the turns out the mom's not actually dead.
Yeah.
But then doesn't Lucy just kill her?
Yeah, well, Lucy...
Well, Anna's trying... Because Anna doesn't think that... She's like, oh, maybe she killed the wrong people.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to help her get away.
We're also seeing some characterization of Is it Anna here or Annie? Am I?
It's Anna.
It's Anna, okay.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
What I took this as is during the scene where Lucy and Anna are kind of living in this house, they're disposing of the corpses in the bathroom, and then in the pit outside... we see Anna just like trying to deal with this and freaking out, but kind of trying to keep her calm. We find out she's actually in love with Lucy, which that wasn't really.
No, I thought this whole little part of the movie could have been cut out, and it wouldn't have really lost a whole lot.
Yeah, you're right.
Not that this part was bad. But
we got to spend more time with Anna, and I think if you're paying attention, you'll very quickly realize Anna is actually the main character of this movie. I didn't.
So going back to the poster of the film, which just kind of shows them both like in a cowering position, I kind of expected it to be about the relationship between these two women that had, been through this thing together.
And not to interrupt you, the film even plays with your mentality of this, your perception of this when they're dragging the bodies in the bathroom during this sequence, and Anna leans in to kiss Lucy because it's just another instance where the film's like it's about their relationship.
Right.
It's a great like is a red herring like a false clue.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool. But there's also a cool scene where it's after this, Lucy's sleeping, and Anna's in the bathroom washing her face, and like she's kind of looking in the mirror, and she sees the mother's face, like she's laying under her dead daughter, and her eyes are open, and she has to double take, and then the mother's eyes are actually open, and then there's another classic orchestral jolt, and it's scary, it gets you.
Yeah.
And so now at this point, Anna tries to save this mother.
Right.
Okay. All the other people are dead, but Anna's trying to save this mother who's bleeding out. And Lucy, at this point, is again being hunted by the creature, which we can assume if the family was actually dead, the creature would be gone.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So this is how Lucy knows, they're not all dead.
Yeah.
And this did drag on a little bit. I think this is where that bathroom scene occurs where Lucy locks herself in the bathroom with the creature. Anyway, she gets really banged up again by this creature, and she's gonna kill this mother. Oh no, not yet. I've got to remember where this happens. Where does the mother die?
Lucy hears them.
Oh, I remember.
Because the mom's like freaking out. And
yeah,
she's
she
like,
takes
be quiet,
the hammer.
Be quiet.
That's right.
And Lucy comes down, and like they're walking down this hallway, and she just like wrecks her with this hammer.
Yep.
And then bashes her head in.
Yep. And so again, I get what you're saying about everything getting dragged out, and then she's kind of attacking Anna, not physically, but she's kind of thrashing stuff in the room, just saying like you don't believe me, you're just like the doctors. There's that whole scene, and then Anna's just like, no,
Right.
And then we hear the croaking of the creature.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I believe it's at this point that we have found out from dream sequences that this creature is actually a woman that was imprisoned with Lucy.
Yeah, because she could have escaped, and as she's escaping, she walks by the cell.
She walks by another cell,
and it's that woman.
The
and
screaming
she leaves her.
is so effective. It's so disturbing
throughout the whole film.
Yeah. Just the sound design of this film is incredible. There's even some really pretty soundtracks, actual songs later that I appreciated.
I mean, that was one of like my other complaints. Like, it kind of didn't fit some of the extreme stuff, but maybe it was supposed to be on purpose. Like, kind of like a dichotomy between the classical and like this graphic stuff that's going on. But anyways,
Oh yeah. So she in this sequence where we're looking at a memory, there's another girl that's even more badly beaten when Lucy was very young and imprisoned, and she leaves her, for dead, and it's clear that has haunted her because this creature is this girl that she had to leave behind dead, or just a monster. and she's haunting Lucy and forcing her to kill people because it's just a figment of her mind.
Right.
And so in this sequence, we see the full visage of this creature, and it's really impressive, really
it's
disturbing.
like this, almost like skeletal. I mean, it's got skin still.
She crawls down the stairs, like almost crab status, but like just really contorted. Whoever played that did a great job. And then again, the film plays with your expectations. We don't know if the creature's real or fake or not, really. And we know it's kind of connected to the past, but we don't really know. And then this creature comes up to Lucy and starts, like, you know, petting Lucy's face in an affectionate way, and they kind of embrace, and it's like, oh my God, that was awesome. That was awesome. And then Lucy had grabbed this X-Acto knife, and she, like, the creature, we don't see it take the X-Acto knife, but it starts cutting Lucy's back and arms. And at this point, we see...
And that's very graphic.
It's so graphic. Yeah. She's slitting her entire arms open, you know? And it alternates between we watch the creature do it, and Lucy hands her the blade, and then, of course, we see Anna watching, and from her perspective, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And Lucy is...
She's
mutilating herself
and banging herself on the wall, and
she starts banging her head against. I mean, it did disappoint me, but only marginally, because I always like when films, any story, when it doesn't really give away its secrets. But it's okay because there's more secrets to come.
Oh yeah,
and
because this is where Lucy takes off. She stands up.
Oh yeah, and
she takes off running.
Because Anna's like, "No, what are you doing? You're crazy."
Yeah. And, she takes off running, jumps out the window, and she slits her own throat.
After crashing through a glass window, takes a piece of glass, and you know, it's so dramatic because it's raining, and Anna's like, "What are you doing?" And she just stands up.
And so this is where I'm like, okay, so where is this movie going now? Because they've cut out the paranormal, that creature. They've cut out the relationship between the two characters.
And the so-called main character is gone.
Yeah. And I'm like, where is this going? And it gets to some messed up stuff. And there's kind of this scene where, like, it's kind of like a little pit stop, I guess, where she calls her mom, and she's just kind of walking around the house, and it's daytime, and it kind of gives you, like, a second to, like, collect yourself and breathe.
Yeah, one of those moments where you're like, we're safe now, but are we?
And then she finds a trap door.
Well, I want to describe how this happens because I have there's something weird about this
It's
scene.
a little bit Scooby-Doo-y. I think I'm going to try to tie in a Scooby-Doo reference to every episode, yeah.
So on the phone with her mother, we hear that her mother's saying, "Are you still tied up with that girl? She's crazy." And of course, Anna's like, "No, I'm not." But we learn that Anna and her mother don't have a good relationship. Does it matter in the slightest for them? No. So the hammer that Lucy was using to kill everybody, well, just the mother, is on this mantle, and then we hear the hammer kind of fall over, and Anna's like, "What?" And at this point, it's like, I thought there's no spooky ghosts in the movie.
Right.
So she goes back to talking to her mom. It's just the hammer. And then we hear the hammer fall again harder, and she looks back, and there's a hole in the wall where the hammer fell through. And
are you trying to say that this happened for a reason?
I want to know how the hammer fell down that hole.
I guess you could make the argument that it might be because the ghost, not really the ghost, but this isn't the last of Lucy. She kind of comes back at a brief moment. So do you think maybe she, like, her ghost knocked it off?
She could have, and I
or
guess,
is it just like Scooby-Doo? Just kind of happened.
I think there's one, it could be an arbitrary and artificial plot forwarding mechanism. Okay,
right.
That's one possibility. Yeah, well, kind of like a day or so. It could just be a plot mechanism where it fell, but it also could be. I feel like the whole film, and especially by the time you get to the end, there's a supernatural undertone to the whole movie, and it comes back at the end.
Spiritual, more so than supernatural.
Spiritual, yes.
Natural.
So, I don't know if it's too far-fetched to assume that something could have happened that was supernatural. Or
and we'll try to remember to come back to that at the end, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't think about it at all until the film was over, and I was like, well, was that just like bad writing, or was it just like, because I liked it, it was creepy.
Yeah, I honestly just chalked it up to like coincidence. But
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo.
Okay. Then she discovers a trap door, and the movie's tone shifts completely.
it reminds me of like Resident Evil.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
How like you got this like house, and then underneath it there's this research facility, this very not industrial, but like a lab kind of.
It's like from the Andromeda Strain or something. You know,
what is the
like
Andromeda Strain?
It's a Michael Crichton story in a movie. He wrote Jurassic Park.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It's like a sterile environment,
Right.
But also a very
white, you know, like
industrial steel,
clean, like.
Yeah, and up until this point, I was doubting whether the family was actually like doing
bad.
What Lucy. Yeah, and because Lucy just seems crazy, even in death, obviously. And then even when you see the trap door, you're like, okay, yep, something's happening here. And then she's in this basement. There's a hallway with pictures. Let's talk about the pictures.
Yeah, and it's all like people like near death, like messed up bad. And is there a voiceover to this, or it's just it's just the pictures? And like there's one person that's got, I don't know, they're like, I'd have to see him again. They're old timey kind of like like we were talking about how it's like a Polaroid at the start of the film. It's kind of presented in that same look. Yeah,
and it Resident Evil is the perfect way to put it. It kind of reminded me of like, see, The Cabin in the Woods is a comedy, but like just that and that was very Resident Evil-ish too.
Yeah, but I mean Cabin in the Woods was a parody of, you know,
right,
a
and
common
this is
trope. So
this is a trope, is the secret like facility, yes. So it's another thing that the film gives you that it's gonna kind of turn on its head. Anyway, so then she finds another trap door, which is clearly it's locked. Clearly, something is down, further down, and then she'll discover she'll hear some more disturbing moaning and grunting, a captive woman,
right, and
her presentation is masterful and disturbing, and like I was terrified before she even found, because we see these chains in the basement and something is dragging the chains across the room, and that's ominous. And
she's got like this, you know, she looks like she's been depraved. She's looks like the creature from before. You know, she's skinny. She's cut up, and she's got this metal blindfold on.
It's like a metal helmet that covers her eyes.
Yeah, and it's extremely creepy looking.
And she also has like a metal chastity belt. But it's like a metal diaper bolted to her body. And then she's chained to the same kind of chair that is at the beginning of the movie holding Lucy. It's like a hole in it so they can like go to the bathroom.
Right.
So we know they're connected now. And long story short, Anna brings her upstairs.
And
I don't know how
cleaning her up.
Oh yeah, she had the key ring. That's right. And she puts her. It's like Nell or something, you know, like that movie Nell. This woman can't even speak, and she looks like a zombie. And she puts her in the bathtub, and the woman starts freaking out, and she's like, "It's okay, it's okay." And it's a really disturbingly heartwarming moment where like Anna has saved this captive,
right?
And then she's in the bathtub, and we see Anna.
And she goes to take this.
Well, she had tried to take that helmet off, and it's like nailed.
It's stapled stapled into her head.
Yeah, so she takes this screwdriver while this woman is sitting in the bathtub and forcibly pries the nails out of her head, and
blood is just pouring over her like face, and
she's screaming.
Yeah, and this was one of the scenes where I just kind of. Because I did it again later, but I just kind of sat like with my head in my hands.
Yeah, me as well.
While I was watching it, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Because just picturing that.
I watched this movie at school in the cafe with my computer like turned away from everybody because my facial expression. I know I can't show anybody this, but I was literally like, jaw open, hand to my head the whole time, like, oh, this scene is so powerfully disturbing and. Then they rip that mask off, and like a bunch of flesh comes with it, and man.
And then this is where I kind of felt that the movie was going to be about Lucy taking care of this woman.
Anna. Either way.
Yeah, you're right. Anna taking care of this woman.
Lucy is dead on the couch at this point. But
so that's what I thought this was going to be about. Like Anna's found like a new Lucy to take care of, and that that's kind of like where I thought it was going, because it's already twisted like twice, and it twists again, and then it's about to twist again.
But before, well, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, before that.
No, so Anna takes a cat nap, and she wakes up and hears some noises from the bathroom where she had left this Nell chick. I'm not going to call her that. That's too hilarious. And
Jodie Foster.
oh my gosh. And she goes in the bathroom to find this woman slicing the arm on the
trying
skin
to cut
on
her arm off.
Well,
yeah.
she's slicing the skin, and then she's cutting with a butcher's
Right.
knife. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Disgusting.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
ew.
Jesus.
It's so brutal. So then the woman tries to escape, and you can introduce us to this.
Yeah, so this is the fourth twist of the film. As this woman is running down the hallway, she just gets blasted by a shotgun. And it's like, whoa, hold on a second. And Anna looks up, and there's these, like, government official looking people. Like, they're all dressed in black, and they've got, guns, and they look very official. And it's like, who are these people?
They look like government agents. Did
Right.
you say that?
Yeah.
Like Umbrella Corporation.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to make too many Resident Evil comparisons. That's just
I think it's a fair...
in the best of ways.
Yeah.
It's just one side thought.
Right. And they start to kind of question Anna, like, who are you? Who is she? Or, they point to Lucy, and they're like, who is she? Kind of, right? And they're just kind of questioning her
and then
about-
you hear them say this shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh my gosh, this is all like a thing.
Where does it go from here? They take her, they
Anna
chain
down
her up.
in the hallway. Kind of weird that they do that, but it makes sense when we.
Yeah.
They take her down in the hallway, handcuff her, and then we are introduced to
Mademoiselle.
Mademoiselle,
Oh,
who
shit.
is a very Resident Evil-like
Yeah,
villain.
yeah.
Now there's a villain, but it's not overdone. I know I've mentioned in a couple past episodes that I don't like villains. It's all about context and delivery.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's very subtle. And I almost didn't like it at first. They kind of put her they bring this table down and they do this weird interrogation thing. And Mademoiselle starts telling Anna about Martyrs.
Right. And she's basically explaining, most villains, like, they'll explain their master plan or whatever, and that's kind of what she's doing right here.
Kind of.
And this is kind of where the film takes its next twist. And you're like, what? And she explains that this is something that they've spent like 40 years researching.
It was at least 15, 20 years. Yeah.
And it's the idea that if you get someone so close to death, they'll be able to see
something. She mentions. She doesn't say yet. I don't want to say that yet. But what she does say is she shows Anna all the pictures that were hanging in the hallway and more pictures. And she says, "Look at their eyes." And they're all looking up. And then she talks about. It's kind of unclear, by the way, until the end what this is. And she's talking about how something. Like religion is not like God is not the invention of religion or something weird.
Yeah, I kind of
Honestly,
I tried to listen to it again and I was like, what's she trying to say here? But
yeah, I didn't love this scene, and the end made me believe in it again.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, but I think it got a little rambly
and heavy-handed because she says martyrs like 3 times. And
right.
I'm like, I don't know how this is working. It works better at the end. Basically, Lucy was part of this giant scheme to try and force some kind of state on a person. When you deprive someone, when you torture them, when you destroy them, sometimes they reach some kind of transcendence.
Yeah.
And then we'll leave it at that for now.
And that idea is so twisted. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Although I will say, it felt pretty pretentious writing-wise when she was talking like this. It felt a little bit cheesed out. The only part of the film that was like this. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does kind of take this twist into, because now you have a villain character.
Yeah, and she's like, when you throw words like transcendence out, and you start ranting about like religion, I'm about that to an extent, but like, it felt very English class. You know what I mean?
I guess.
So,
I don't know. I didn't have any problems with it. I dug it.
That's fine. That's just me.
And then
and then the last thing she says is, it just so happens that young women are the most susceptible to this state that we're trying to induce in people, because most people don't ever reach this state of martyrdom, is what Mademoiselle says. And I'm going to let you talk now, but what I will say to transition us into this scene is that now we go into one of the final sequences of the movie that... Pretty
much, like, from here on out, the movie's pretty, like, this is what it is for the last 30 minutes. I
did feel like, unfortunately, the way that the rest of the movie had to pan out kind of undermined its really exciting and unpredictable pace.
Yeah, because this is kind of where it becomes just your basic torture porn, where she's just getting... I mean, she's chained up, and they feed her like this gross food, and you know she spits it out, and they hit her. She spits it out, and they hit her, and you know eventually she's starting to eat it, but you can still see like she's getting depraved, and you can tell like you know a great deal of time, not a great deal, but time is passing, because they're beating her. You know what else do? They just beat her up. Well, they pretty much just beat her up, right?
Yeah, and. There's a guy, one of the cooler scenes of this very long and like kind of monotonous sequence is that a man frequently visits her, and the first time he comes to visit, he unchains her and offers her escape. And she has the opportunity, right? And it's that fact that as soon as she tries, he starts wailing on her.
Right.
And so in theory, it's just that idea of, well, you could escape, but I'm denying you of that.
Right.
And it's depravity, right?
Yeah. Take away that hope, kind of like, you know, like with the food, like, you know, she might be able to spit it out, but I'm just going to keep hitting you. So.
And the way that she's tortured really isn't. I mean, it's pretty brutal, but it's really not that intense. She's just getting beaten up. I liked that one thing that the film does that I don't know if it's really subtle. At the beginning, when they're talking about Lucy and these Polaroid reporter shots, they mention she definitely wasn't raped.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the film from the get-go is trying to take that out of the equation.
Right. Either like because, this isn't sexual.
Right. Either because they don't want to make the film about that, or because they're trying to avoid that with the media.
Right.
With I don't know how France is, and I can't claim to know. This film kind of reminded me of High Tension, which does involve some sexual assault. If you've seen High Tension, it's a psychological roller coaster like this, and it just reminded me of that.
But so like as these scenes go on and she's getting beat up and they cut her all her hair off, and like her face is just like getting so you don't even recognize her by the end of it. And that goes on for I don't know like 20 minutes, and then you get to the finale, and before that happens, she has like a not like a vision, but like a like a voice comes to her, and it's Lucy. And she says something about like just let go. Yeah. Like, don't try to fight it, just let go and everything will be okay.
And again, with this scene, I didn't really appreciate how that was just a blatant like Deus Ex mechanism.
Like it would have been kind of cool if maybe throughout this time period you see or you hear her hearing Lucy.
Yeah, because there's nothing else like that in the film.
Unless you think that the hammer falling and opening the door was Lucy.
And but I still think there wasn't enough of it, but you could make that interpretation. Yeah. I would like to believe that. But, I'll talk more about this sequence after we get to the end of the movie.
Yeah, so, and Lucy, who tells her, is it Lucy that says, you have one more step left?
No, that is the woman with blonde hair, different woman who comes and she's been cutting her hair and giving her food. Now she's being very nice to her.
And there's a weird little scene where you see the two people that are beating her up. This happens in a little bit. Yeah, and they're just living normal lives. You know what I mean?
I wish there would have been more of that too.
Yeah.
That would have made this more interesting to me, to know what the other side was like, and more twisted, We don't really hear much about the other people. The secret society, as it turns out.
But so they say there's the final step or,
and then
phase.
In a very masterful scene, you see the woman with blonde hair bent down, kind of washing Anna's face, and then the camera zooms into the darkness past them, and I'm like, what is it focusing on? And then you notice there's doors in this chamber, and then the light turns on, and it's great because you're like, what's behind the door?
Right. And so we go behind the door, and there's this machine, like a rack almost, that she's hung up on. And this was another part where I sat with my head in my hands
Yep.
while I watched this, because you see, like, they take all her clothes off and it's just a close-up of her face, and you can hear them cutting her skin. And
Her bones or something.
Yeah.
They're cutting something.
And you just see, like, her expressionless face, and it's just like, geez.
It's really brutal. I mean, and she's actually, it's like this crazy contraption where she's bolted into it and facing toward the ground, but suspended in the air. And like, yeah, so you kind of see this guy start to do something to her, and it's really painful. And then
so like it kind of jumps forward, and she's like got this cloth over her
in a wheelchair,
and he rolls her into this room, and
it's the same room.
Oh, it's the same room.
Yeah.
They just okay, yeah, you're right. And he takes the cloth off her, and she's been skinned
Completely.
flayed. She's been filet
Except
mignon.
for her face.
Except for her face, yeah.
This, it's brutal, and I was like, man, this is really disturbing to see. You can kind of tell, like, it's a suit, like it's a little bit.
But it still
too
looked.
apparent.
I thought it looked really good, like her hands and
yeah.
her feet and
Yeah.
stuff. Like I was like, how did they do that? Like,
yeah, and then it's like it's almost a little too much, but
Right.
it's great. I mean, and then he straps her up to this by her arms to
it
this
turns on like
bar,
a heat lamp.
just leaves her there.
Yeah.
and she's still alive, and ooh man, it's great. I agree. Yeah, I was like, man,
And that's pretty much like the grand finale of the film. Like that's like the,
kind of.
right,
Kind
because
of.
there is a little bit more, and this is like the climax, and then it kind of like this is all wrapping itself up, because the lady goes down to feed her,
And then-
presumably,
Yeah, we hear the lady scream.
which I thought was maybe like, Anna had found a way out.
Yeah,
and
you don't
she's,
really
like,
know.
gonna fight her way out or something, but the lady just comes running up, and don't they say something like, "Did it happen?" Or
I don't know.
they're
but
kind of like,
they call Mademoiselle.
yeah,
Promptly, Mademoiselle shows up.
and and then there's that cool shot where it zooms in on her eye.
When does this happen? Is it before Mademoiselle
I
shows up? We're
believe
looking
it's
at it right now.
before Mademoiselle shows up.
So
It zooms in on her eye, and it keeps zooming, and it keeps zooming, and it goes into her eye, and then
this
like
is Anna's eye.
uh.
You can tell, and it shows her face, and she's looking up.
Mm-hmm.
Like
and like
all of
when
the-
it goes into her eye, you see almost like a Big Bang type of like universe thing that was really interesting.
Some crazy. It reminds me of like 2001: Space Odyssey
Yeah.
or something like that. Just like very astral. Honestly, you don't really see too much. It's just like, and then
Colors and
and it zoom kind of like the eye of a hurricane too, and then it zooms back out of her eye eventually, and Mademoiselle is gonna come down, and
she leans in close.
and she asks,
What did
Anna,
you see?
What did you see? And all we see is Anna whisper in her ear, and she's listening intently. And then the rest of a ton of other cars and old people.
Old people, yeah.
And at this point, I realized what was going on.
Right.
Because what Mademoiselle says when she leans in toward Anna in this skinned state is, "Did you see the other world?"
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I didn't really realize she was talking about the after
Afterlife.
death.
Yeah.
But then all these old people start showing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this
So
is a
they're-
bunch of people trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
afterlife is.
And that was where like I thought it kind of got a little sci-fi.
Yeah.
In a good way.
And I'll talk more about maybe how I wanted more of that wasn't in the movie. But
And so I guess we could talk about the conclusion, because right now you kind of think that the bad guys have won. Because like he's like, there's this guy, and he's like, Mademoiselle will be with you shortly. We've achieved transcendence after 15
Yep.
years of research. And-
Anna is only the fourth
Only the
individual,
fourth ever.
and she's the first to directly relate what she has seen.
Right, because the other ones couldn't speak or something. And so, it cuts to Mademoiselle in the bathroom, and you think she's getting ready.
And the steward who has made the announcement, an old guy, kind of comes
Yeah.
up the stairs, knocks on the door, says, "You almost ready?"
And she's kind of like not really answering his question. She's talking about other stuff, kind of. And she asks him, Have you ever thought about the other side?
And before that, he says, like, you did get an answer, right? And she's like,
Oh, yeah.
yup. And he's like, was it clear? And she's like,
Oh, yeah,
it leaves no room for interpretation.
Right.
And he's like, great. And
Great.
then she asks, have you ever imagined,
The
what
other
does she
side
say?
or something.
Have you ever tried to imagine? There's a quote actually in the wiki. It's in the very last. Oh, can you imagine what comes after death?
Okay.
Is what she asks him, and
And then
he says no.
And she says, keep doubting, and blows her brains out
with a pistol,
with a gun.
and
that's where it ends.
During that scene, she's taking her makeup off and like her hat off, and you can tell she's like not really she's in a weird state of mind. But you can't. I didn't really see that coming. And then yep.
And then it's finally the last shot is it zooms in on Anna's face, and then there's like this choir in the background
Yeah.
that swells, and
It's
then
like,
it just cuts, and then
That's
it.
it.
Oh, and then it tells you the word
definition
martyr,
for martyr,
but in
that's
Greek.
before this. That's
Yeah.
actually before this.
It
that's
tells you
right
it in Greek because for Greeks it meant witness.
what does it actually mean?
Martyr is someone that dies for a cause.
That's what I was thinking the whole movie.
Right.
And it's another way the film kind of.
Twist your expectations.
Yeah, because she kind of died for somebody else's cause,
Mhm.
but she didn't die.
Right.
It's weird. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
And like, not many movies leave me like that one did, which was kind of just like thinking for a second.
Right. Because, and this, my immediate thought was like just to think about having that happen to you.
Right.
Like these people don't care about you.
Yeah.
You're flayed, and
Which,
and just leaving it on Anna's face. Like you think about, an hour ago in this movie, she was just a person, and like she had like her mom and all that, and now
Yeah.
she's just a shell,
yeah.
and that kind of creeped me out.
And one of the things I was wondering the whole film, I was just like, why would these people are so cruel? Why do they torture? Yet
Yeah.
they live these happy lives. And then I was like, oh, well, they're trying to figure out what's after death,
Mhm.
and they believe that this is worth it to them to figure that out.
Which is insane.
And by the way, the interpretation, at least, with when Mademoiselle says what she says and then kills herself, is that what Anna has told her is too terrible for Mademoiselle to live with.
Well, see, I think that's open for discussion.
I do. No, I do too.
Yeah.
But that's one interpretation.
Because I think it's either she told her there's nothing,
right,
or
You
she
don't
told
know.
her that you have to go now, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't tell anyone else. Like just go. This is
Right, because I didn't know what to think. And in the wiki, the reason I just said that one interpretation is in the wiki, the person that has written the wiki has interpreted it as a very Lovecraftian, what is beyond life is more terrible than anything we can imagine.
Yeah.
And that's a very Lovecraft, like it's
See, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
I don't know either.
Yeah, but no, I definitely think this is why I said this is a film that warrants discussion.
Yeah.
Because which is it? And do you have an opinion on which one you think is the most right? Because I think, there's the whatever she said was too terrible. There's the it's either too terrible that there isn't anything at all and she kills herself because her life's work is useless.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, like Mademoiselle needs to go now, or like maybe she can't tell anyone about it, or else she'll block herself off from it. And I don't really. I thought about it like all day, and I don't even know which one I think is the most true.
I don't know if there's one that's more true. I can tell you which
Right.
one I would rather be true. And
Yeah,
I
I
can
guess
tell you
that's
what I
what I
want to
mean.
believe.
Um,
And
I think a key piece of the dialogue is the keep doubting, because
Yeah.
why would she tell him to keep doubting?
and you could interpret that in different ways.
Right.
Doubting, it's just a weird way to keep doubting.
Because he never says he doubts it. He just never thinks about it. So is she
Right.
saying, like, keep doubting, don't think about it because it's terrible?
That's one way.
Or is she
I think.
saying don't think about it because it's actually not real?
Right.
And,
Either way, I think the keep doubting can't be a good thing.
Right.
it's almost like an ignorance is bliss kind of message.
Yeah.
Which is I like thinking about it as in there's just something so beyond our comprehension that is terrible, and it's almost like, look at all the suffering in this movie, and at least you could say it takes away your ability to say, well, Anna has suffered, but she's in a better place now, right?
Right.
Because that's why I'd like to believe that, because it means the film is utterly merciless and there's no hope. Not even in death is there hope.
Well, I guess, I mean, I just thought about it right now. The keep doubting could be, like, you keep doubting, I'm going to kill myself and go to this great place. You know what I mean? Because maybe, because they said that they've only gotten it to happen 4 times. So maybe he's like, this is not working, or, it's not real. And she's like, all right, keep doubting. See ya.
Yeah, she's pretty messed up, though. Would be a counter argument. That's a counter argument.
Yeah, see, but that's what's so cool about this movie is it's open like that. In all 3 of those possibilities, there probably is even more.
Yeah.
All 3 of them are all plausible, I think.
So if you have seen this movie, when you do see this movie, I would love to hear some of your guys' thoughts.
Comment. We'll comment back for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, just I love most of the things about the movie.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be more of like this mad scientist sci-fi. It would have been cool. Like, I had images in my head of what they could have done. Like, you could have seen them like trying to open a straight up portal with all this weird equipment. And I like when like sci-fi is like blended with grotesque horror. I like that.
Right. But this film doesn't, it's not listed as a sci-fi film.
Right.
So I don't know if like the guy set out to make a sci-fi movie, but
it would have been cool to see an indication of the other side, and the other side being not Anna and Lucy, because I think that would have been like, how this is another terrible example, but in The Cabin in the Woods, there's like the whole
you get to see the people
that live
behind
underground, and that's part of the reason why that film's so good. But I know that's a comedy, but it's just cool to see like the weird, twisted, mad fanatics,
the thought process behind it.
Yeah, and like then maybe they could. Anyway, we don't have to talk about what could have been, but I would have liked to see more of that. The film's already pretty long.
Hour and a half's not bad.
It was like it was an hour and 45, I think, for me.
Let's talk about, unless you got something else you really want to say about this film, let's talk about the American remake that's coming out.
What?
They're remaking it.
What?
And I've never heard of the directors. I've never heard of any of the actors that are in it. And the directors came out and said that it's going to focus less on the violence and more on the relationship between the 2 girls. And so I'm expecting it to be pretty bad.
I would agree.
But I'm probably going to watch it just to see, because they said they don't want it to be a shot-for-shot remake. They want it to be a reimagining set in the same universe.
I like the idea, but
I'm going to watch it.
We could even do a podcast on that remake.
We could and compare it.
Yeah. One thing that I don't I don't like about that idea is that what I like about this movie isn't that relationship.
No.
What I like about
go ahead. What do you like about it?
Well, I just like how the movie is really like 4 different movies.
Exactly.
And through this layering, you never really know what to expect.
Exactly.
Until a certain point. But so I don't know. I'm not. We're gonna have to see that and see
what
we think.
It supposedly had like a debut screening, I think maybe like in October.
When is it supposed to be released?
2016.
Okay.
So it probably won't be in theaters. I would imagine it'll probably be like a video on demand.
I don't know if they're focusing less on the violence. Well, I don't know. No, you could be right. We'll have to check it out for sure. So. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I do want to give my overall thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly, but I don't know. I honestly, this is one of the best. Even beyond the horror genre, this movie's phenomenal.
Yeah, I would say it's hands down the best quote unquote torture porn movie I've ever seen.
Because it almost isn't. Almost isn't.
Except maybe Saw. I'm a big fan of the first Saw, but
I don't have a reference. I actually haven't.
Oh,
I'm almost embarrassed to say I haven't seen those
Saw's
movies.
good.
They're all on Netflix. I could binge them tonight.
You should. Tonight, right now.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're talking about Saw 1 through 7.
That's going to be the shortest episode yet.
And that's it. That's all. All right.
Yeah, in summation, it's phenomenal. It circumvents a lot of expectations. It keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
And the only part where I feel like it undermines itself is when you finally get to the scenes where Anna has become the victim, and it just is a little too monotonous.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I think it goes by quick because you know
Sure.
what? I think I was almost expecting like another twist to come. Because that's my favorite part is that
Yeah.
this movie is like happens in layers and you just keep going.
Yeah.
You literally go further down. You know what I mean? Like
The rabbit hole.
yeah. The mouse hole, dude.
That's a good point. I like that.
Um,
But it just got a little too predictable, and then what happened? The end wasn't predictable, but this
No.
sequence and then I was like, well, I feel like it's too straightforward if she actually becomes a martyr, but she like did.
yeah,
and, that's
and she's like
fine.
the ultimate martyr.
Yeah, and that's fine. But it's almost High Tension's ending was a little too straightforward for me. I still
Yeah.
liked it, but
Yeah.
I like this movie more than High Tension, and I think this movie. I don't want to compare them really, but as long as they're both French films,
Right.
whatever. I'm not trying to compare them and put them on
Yeah,
the same
because other
level.
than that, they're not really.
I'm just saying that for a film that does an excellent job for the most part of being constantly shocking and layered, this scene was very starkly out of place. This sequence, should I say? And maybe there was something they could have done differently. I don't know. Other than that, I don't have much criticism because the end hits hard and it leaves you with questions. And that's my favorite kind of movie.
Yeah.
And I'd like to imagine almost more than I'd like to know.
See, I didn't really have a problem with that last sequence, I guess, maybe as much as you did. Maybe
Sure,
one
yeah.
thing that I guess we could, like, agree on is I think it would have been better if maybe, like, they mixed it up a little bit, because the only thing you see is, like, she gets beat up and she gets her hair cut very
Yeah.
violently. Maybe, like, not that I wanted to see her get cut up or anything,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like, show some of the stuff, different stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you go straight from just punching and stuff to the flaying scene.
Yeah, there's not really...
It's a big jump.
Well, there's not really that much of a crescendo. There's a lot of neutral. She's getting beat up. She's
Yeah.
getting abused. And then it's straight to the skin. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I didn't feel like there was as much of a crescendo as the rest of the film.
Right.
So that...
But overall,
You
loved
know,
it.
Yeah, I mean, even the beginning, the creatures are excellent. And if,
Mhm.
again, maybe they could have left it up to interpretation, but I still loved that they were in the film. And the creatures kind of become not really a part of the film. But of course, maybe there's a question of, are they even something supernatural when you become, I don't know, who knows?
So, yeah.
Or are the characters just crazy?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
hard to say. And that's what's fun about this movie.
Please go watch Martyrs. Please tell us your thoughts on our Facebook page,
And
Blood Feud Podcast.
Thanks so much for the shout out for the recommendation for this
recommendation.
film.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. We hope to have more recommendations soon.
You can tweet us at Blood Feud Pod. You can Facebook us. I already said that. We do read everything. I know there's a lot of stuff pouring in on our end.
Yeah.
Lots of people trying to get their voice heard, but we listen to everybody. All 44 of you.
All 44. Yeah, no.
But yeah, no.
We're having a lot of fun talking about these movies,
Yeah.
and if nothing else, it just gives us an opportunity to watch hopefully some more great movies that, in the best case scenario, define and take the genre a little further, as in this movie.
Right. I mean, I think we might have talked about this in the first episode a little bit, but like I think the reason that I like doing this podcast is because when I tell people that my favorite type of movie is horror movies, they're like, horror movies suck.
Right.
No, you're just not looking hard enough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got to look for the good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be back next week.
What are we gonna do next
I
week?
think is it Creep?
I think we're gonna do Creep next
Creep,
week.
which is it's on Netflix.
It is.
If you're a fan of found footage films, it's another found footage film.
Yep, it's a Mark Duplass film.
Yeah, from The League. You might know him. He was in a movie called Safety Not Guaranteed.
Him and he's got the Duplass Brothers
Mhm.
production.
Yep.
They did that movie, The One I Love,
Yeah.
which I didn't like, but it's not really a horror
you didn't
movie.
like that?
No, but you did.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Too bad we can't talk about it. But
Um,
so yeah, go check out Creep. We'll be back next week. If this is your first time checking us out, thanks. Hope you stick around. If you've been listening, we appreciate it a lot. Oh, subscribe to our YouTube because that's
Yep.
where everything's
That's
going
where
up. What's the?
everything
Is it
is.
just Blood Feud Podcast?
It's Blood Feud Podcast
Yeah.
at YouTube. And as
Tell your
always,
friends.
Every week we'll have a new episode up.
Every single fucking week. I'm Neil.
I'm Sam.
Take it easy.
We'll see you next time.
You're gonna have to cut it.